response. Kia ora.
Mr. Chair.
Hekia Parata.
Mr. Chair, if I could just answer the further specific questions around the cohort entry age that have been asked. In particular, what kind of research has been done of this? The problem is it's been very difficult to do research on it because New Zealand is such an outlier. So there is significant research on cohort entry, on groups travelling through, but comparable research, next to nothing. Secondly, a further question around concern to ensure that the smoother transitions from early childhood to new entrants aren't compromised by cohort entry, which is a concern I share with Mr Hipkins. And we've made it very clear that as part of the operational effectiveness of the new communities of learning and kahui ako, that's one of the explicit and specific expectation is to ensure that that happens between all ECEs and schools rather than at the moment it happens around the country. So yes, we share your concern. Today or yesterday, to respond to Ms Delahunty, in fact we launched on its 21st birthday a refresh of Te Whāriki and of making sure that the curriculum objectives there are very much up to date with supporting young people and their transitions. So I think that's another indication about how serious we are as a government to invest into that space. And then of course it is a question was asked, I'm not sure which member now, I think it might have been Mr Hipkins, what happens if a parent exercising the flexibility to send their child in an early cohort and then finds that actually it's just not working for their child, particularly since we are compelling once enrolled to stay. The bill enables a flexible plan and a review for that particular age group. But then speaking to the compulsion part, what we do know from evidence is that too many parents are starting their child in the continuous entry way, but taking them in and out of school until they're 6. And that is extremely disruptive. And then finally, we're asked, well, what support is there for this? Because there weren't a lot of submitters at Select Committee. Well, I can tell you there was significant support. First of all, the advisory group on early learning that met all through to the middle of 2015 formally recommended that this should occur. And when the ministry consulted, we received support, 80% from teachers, 68% from boards and 76% from parents. So there was widespread support, and I don't know if committee members would agree, but sometimes you'll get more representation from those opposed than from those who do agree. Thank you.
Members, it is my view that there's been it's now reasonable to move to the next theme. Point of order, Tracy Martin.
Mr Chair, there are still 5 other supplementary order papers that have not been addressed in these clauses because we have not had the opportunity to actually address them, sir.
The member's had four calls, and during that time, to canvass the supplementary order papers and the SOPs that are, and the amendments that are on the table, the Business Committee has made the determination that the chairperson at the time, if the chairperson believes that the views have been put, and the minister in this case has answered those questions posed of her, that it's reasonable now to move to the next theme on the...
Point of order, Mr Chair.
This is... No, look, I've explained the position. The members will sit. I've explained the position. This is a determination of the Business Committee that the chair has the discretion whether we move to the next theme, and I'm exercising that discretion.
Point of order, Mr Chair.
If you're relitigating what I've already ruled on, Ms Martin, then that's out of order.
Sir,
Is this a new point of order?
Yes, sir.
Tracy Martin, new point of order.
If, sir, you're going to close off the conversation around these particular clauses based on the Business Committee's decisions, knowing that there are supplementary order papers that have not been addressed, I'd like to recall the Speaker, sir.
Order. Well, the Speaker can't be recalled because this is a determination of the Business Committee, And the determination of the Business Committee is that when the chairperson believes that there's been a reasonable debate and there's been a dialogue, and in this case the Minister has been posed questions, the Minister has answered those questions, is that we now move on to the next theme within the debate, and that's what I intend to do. So there's no further debate.
Point of order.
The Mahuta.
Point of order, Mr Chair. While I'm not questioning the determination of the Business Committee in providing yourself with the ability to exercise discretion, if the discretion is based on the number of calls sought and had by members, I sought the call twice.
No, it's not debate. It's not debate.
And was rejected the opportunity
I hear what
to
the
take
member's
a call.
saying. I hear what the member's saying. It's not based on that at all. I keep a record of the calls. I'm more interested, as this is a theme debate. This is the first time we're doing a theme debate, as opposed to a part-by-part debate. So I'm interested in the dialogue that's gone on, the debate and speeches that have been made as to the content of what's happened within the particular theme. I'm satisfied that it's been well canvassed, and I'm also satisfied that the Minister's taken advantage of the opportunity to answer those questions posed of her. And so we're now moving to the next theme. And so, members, we now move to the debate on communities of online learning, and this comprises clauses 38, 72 and 145.3. So someone wishes to take the call. Tracy Martin.
Thank you very much for the call, Mr Chair.